I gave my stepmother the perfect birthday gift on my 18th birthday, then watched her world crumble as she realized what it truly meant. When Dad died in that car accident 3 years ago, I was 15, and Victoria had been my stepmother for 4 years. She'd worked at his tech company as head of marketing, all blonde ambition and calculated charm. The kind of woman who could make a boardroom of men forget their own names while she systematically dismantled their arguments. Dad had been completely under her spell. After Mom died of cancer when I was 7, he'd waited exactly 2 years before bringing Victoria home. She made him laugh again, he'd told me, his eyes soft with something I'd never seen before. I need you to try, Sophia. So I tried. I helped Victoria redecorate our house, watching her replace Mom's warm, lived-in furniture with sleek modern pieces that looked like they belonged in a magazine. I nodded politely when she converted Mom's art studio into a home gym because creativity is so messy, darling. I even smiled when she threw away all of Mom's paintings, claiming they were taking up too much storage space. For 4 years, I played the perfect stepdaughter. I attended her charity galas wearing the designer dresses she picked out. I tolerated her book club friends who gushed about how mature I was for my age. I kept my grief buried behind perfect grades and extracurricular achievements that would look good on college applications. Victoria tried in her calculated way. She bought me expensive gifts, always things that reflected her taste rather than mine. She enrolled me in etiquette classes and French lessons, grooming me to be the kind of stepdaughter who would be an asset to her image. She even started a college fund, making sure everyone knew about her generosity to her dear dead husband's child. But when I had my first panic attack about the anniversary of Mom's death, Victoria handed me a business card for a therapist and went to her Pilates class. When I struggled with advanced calculus, she hired a tutor but never asked how I was doing. When I won the state science fair, she attended the ceremony but spent the entire time networking with other parents. The breaking point came during my junior year of high school. I'd been accepted to represent our school at a prestigious academic competition in Washington, D.C., something I'd worked toward for months. The same weekend, Victoria had scheduled a couples retreat in Napa Valley with Dad. She explained with her practiced smile that the retreat was important for their relationship, and surely I could understand that a school competition wasn't more important than their marriage. Dad had looked uncomfortable, but ultimately agreed. There would be other competitions, he'd said. Victoria's happiness came first. That night, I went to my room and pulled out the lockbox I'd hidden under my bed. Inside was a key I'd found in Mom's jewelry box years ago, along with a note I'd never understood. For Sophia, when she's old enough to know the truth. Storage Unit 247, West Side Self-Storage. I'd kept the key for 8 years, too young to understand its significance. But at 17, with my world crumbling around me, I finally had the courage to use it. I skipped school the next day and took the bus across town. The storage unit was small, dusty, and filled with boxes I recognized from Mom's art studio. But in the back, wrapped in plastic, was a fireproof safe. The key fit perfectly. Inside was a USB drive, several manila folders, and a letter in Mom's handwriting. "My dearest Sophia," it began. "If you're reading this, then Victoria has probably shown her true colors by now. I'm so sorry I won't be there to protect you from what's coming." I read the letter 3 times, my hands shaking. Mom had discovered something in the months before she died. Victoria hadn't been just Dad's employee. She'd been embezzling from the company for years, using a complex network of fake vendors and inflated contracts. Worse, she'd been slowly poisoning Mom's cancer treatment, replacing her medications with placebos while documenting her miraculous recovery for social media. The USB drive contained years of evidence. Bank records, email exchanges, even video footage from Mom's hidden cameras around the house. Victoria had been planning Mom's death for over a year, positioning herself as the grieving stepmother who would help Dad heal. But Mom had been one step ahead. She'd changed her will in secret, leaving everything to me with a trust that would activate on my 18th birthday. The will Victoria had presented to the court was a forgery. A good one, but a forgery nonetheless. Mom had hidden the real will with a private attorney, along with instructions that I was to be contacted on my 15th birthday. I'd been living a lie for 3 years, The inheritance Victoria thought she'd received was actually borrowed against the trust's future value. Every penny she'd spent, every investment she'd made, every charity donation she'd bragged about, it was all my money, and she'd been accumulating massive debt in the process. The attorney Mom had chosen was a shark named Margaret Chen, who specialized in complex estate fraud. She'd been watching Victoria for 3 years, documenting every financial move, every social media post, every public appearance where she'd presented herself as the grieving widow managing my father's legacy. For the next 3 years, I lived a double life. At home, I was the perfect daughter Victoria could show off to her friends. But twice a week, I met with Margaret and her team, learning about corporate law, financial forensics, and the intricate web of lies Victoria had spun around our family. I discovered that Dad's car accident hadn't been an accident at all. Victoria had been slowly drugging his coffee with substances that would cause micro-sleep episodes, brief moments of unconsciousness that would look like driver error. She'd done it 3 times before finally succeeding, each previous incident dismissed as stress-related fatigue. The insurance payout had been enormous. Victoria had played the devastated widow perfectly, even fainting at the funeral for dramatic effect. But the camera she didn't know about had captured her practicing that feint in her bedroom mirror the night before. Margaret and I spent months preparing for my 18th birthday. We gathered evidence, built our case, and waited for the perfect moment to strike. Victoria had planned an elaborate birthday party at the Ritz-Carlton, inviting everyone who mattered in our social circle. She wanted to publicly celebrate my inheritance as a way of cementing her role as my beloved guardian. She had no idea she was planning her own execution. The morning of my birthday, Margaret delivered a package to Victoria's office. Inside was a copy of the real will, along with a forensic accounting report showing exactly how much money Victoria had stolen from the trust. The accompanying letter was brief. You have until tonight to decide how you want to handle this. Criminal charges or quiet resignation. Your choice. I watched Victoria's face during the party as she received the package. Her practiced smile faltered for just a moment before she excused herself to the bathroom. When she returned, her makeup was perfect, but her hands shook as she raised her champagne glass. Victoria tried to maintain her composure through the evening, but I could see the panic building behind her eyes. She kept glancing at me, searching for some sign that I knew what was happening. I gave her nothing but my usual dutiful smile and polite conversation. The real gift came at midnight. As the last guests were leaving, Victoria cornered me in the hotel lobby. Her perfect facade had finally cracked, and I could see the desperation underneath. I handed her a small wrapped box. Inside was a single photograph. Mom on her deathbed, taken by one of the hidden cameras. On the back, I'd written a single word: justice. Victoria's face went white as she understood. I'd known everything for years. I'd been planning this moment since I was 15. And now, with the trust officially activated, I had complete control of the fortune she'd thought was hers. The next morning, Margaret filed papers with the court revealing the will fraud. Victoria's assets were frozen pending investigation. The forensic accountants descended on the company books, unraveling years of embezzlement and financial manipulation. But the real devastation was social. Victoria's charity friends, her country club associates, her business contacts. They all learned simultaneously that she'd been living a lie. The grieving widow who'd impressed them with her strength and grace was actually a master manipulator who'd murdered her husband and stolen her stepdaughter's inheritance. Victoria tried to fight the charges initially, hiring expensive lawyers and spinning elaborate explanations. But Margaret had prepared for every possible defense. The evidence was overwhelming, the case airtight. The murder charges were the hardest to prove, but the financial crimes were slam dunks. Victoria had been so confident in her scheme that she'd kept meticulous records, never imagining that anyone would have the resources or motivation to investigate her. In the end, she took a plea deal. 25 years for financial fraud, conspiracy, and voluntary manslaughter. She'd serve at least 15 before being eligible for parole. I attended every day of her sentencing hearing, sitting in the front row where she couldn't avoid seeing me. When the judge read the verdict, I maintained the same polite smile I'd worn for 7 years. But inside, I felt something I hadn't experienced since Mom died. Peace. The company Dad had built was returned to its rightful owner, me. I restructured the entire organization, firing everyone who'd been complicit in Victoria's schemes and promoting the employees who'd tried to warn Dad about financial irregularities. I kept the house but had it completely renovated, stripping away every trace of Victoria's influence. I converted her home gym back into Mom's art studio, hanging her paintings in places of honor throughout the house. The college fund Victoria had bragged about creating turned out to be another fiction, but I didn't need it anymore. I had more money than I could spend in several lifetimes, and I finally had the freedom to honor Mom's memory properly. I established a foundation in Mom's name, focusing on cancer research and support for children who'd lost parents. I endowed scholarships at her alma mater and funded art programs in underserved communities. Every charitable donation was made quietly, without fanfare or social media posts. Victoria writes to me from prison occasionally, letters that arrive like clockwork every few months. She maintains her innocence, claims she was framed, begs for my forgiveness. I read every letter carefully, then file them away with the rest of her lies. Some people ask if I feel guilty about the elaborate deception, about letting her live in false security for 3 years while I planned her destruction. But I remember Mom's final months, watching her suffer while Victoria played the devoted stepmother. I remember Dad's funeral, where Victoria sobbed theatrically while I stood dry-eyed, too shocked to process what had happened. Victoria taught me that appearances can be deceiving, that the most dangerous enemies are often the ones who smile while they destroy you. She showed me that justice doesn't always come naturally. Sometimes it has to be carefully constructed, patiently executed, and personally delivered. Every year on my birthday, I visit Mom's grave and leave fresh flowers. I tell her about the foundation, about the company, about the life I'm building on the ruins of Victoria's lies. I think she would be proud of what I've become. And every year, I send Victoria a birthday card in prison. Just a simple card with a photograph of me at Mom's grave, smiling genuinely for the first time in years. On the back, I write the same message: thinking of you today. She never responds, but I know she understands. It's the only language we have left. The language of consequences, of justice served cold, of a daughter who learned to be patient and thorough and absolutely ruthless when protecting the people she loves. The perfect daughter Victoria tried to create became the perfect weapon against her. And unlike her schemes, my revenge will last forever.